Welcome everyone to today's webinar. I can see that people are still coming in the door, so we'll give a little bit of time for that. But already happy to get things started a little bit. I'll introduce myself. I'm Christina Crawley. I'm the Managing Director of Marketing here at Forum One. And really pleased to be here with my amazing colleague, Corey Jones, who is going to be talking about his creative process behind designing for impact today. So this is such a pleasure. I am very lucky I get to work with Corey day in and day out. And so I'm really pleased for you to get a chance to meet him, see how he works, and get a chance to ask some questions as well. But before we get started, I'll do a little bit of housekeeping, and also I'd be remiss not to introduce Form One. If you're not familiar with who we are, I'll talk about that, and then we'll get started into today's webinar. So just to share that we are Forum One. We're a digital agency based in the Washington, D.C. area. We have an office in Seattle as well, and then folks spattered across the United States. We work solely with mission-driven organizations, so anything from nonprofits, foundations, associations, government agencies at the local, state, and federal levels as well. And we are laser focused on creating digital impact. We've been doing this for over 25 years and are pleased that is part of our DNA and very much what Corey brings to the table in the discussion today. To get a sense of the types of organizations we work with, I mentioned some of the kind of overarching types of groups. Here are a number of clients that we've been working with for a number of years. I'll leave it at that. If you'd like to learn more about Forum One, you're welcome to go to our website, which is forum1.com. You can read about who we are, the services we provide, the work that we've done, and the clients that we work with. So with that, let's dig into today. So we are going to be talking about the creative process behind designing for impact. And really pleased that this is happening in February as the last and extended day of February. So happy leap year to everyone. It's a chance and an honor to be able to speak about some of the work that we're doing with the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture as the last day of Black History Month. So thrilled to be able to highlight and bring Corey Jones, a Black designer who has been doing so much of this work and really inspiring things and bringing his whole self to this. So with that, I'm going to let you get to know Corey. If you have questions, comments, feel free to put those in the chat. There's the Q&A as well. We can use that, and I'm going to be doing my best to moderate that. But I think the chat's a good one because then you can both ask questions and give your feedback throughout. So we can pause and take questions. So don't feel like you have to wait to the end. We'll also take questions at the end as well. So that's no problem. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, pass it over to Corey, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Tina. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So, well, first, I want to thank everybody who's joining me live today. I really, really appreciate this time. And I was thinking the other day in chatting with Tina about doing something like this, that, wow, what a career I've had here at Forum One. But not only Forum One, the amazing opportunities with so many different clients. I've gotten to do some really, really cool things. But today I'm going to focus on a lot of my work I often refer to the African American Museum as NAMOC, and this is an accepted term, the acronym. Those are in DC, you know all about acronyms. But I wanted to start with a little bit of a background about who I am. Who is Corey Jones, and what do you get when you work with somebody like me? And I say this to younger designers and a lot of creatives I mentor, that you have to look at yourself as if you are a brand. When people work with you, they get to know you on a deeper level. You develop this connection with your clients, you develop this connection with your peers, and all of that makes who you are. And it becomes your brand, and it becomes your persona, that the thing that people know you for. And I always think about that in every interaction, because in my career, I have been many, many different things. I've been a designer, I've been a director, I've been an animator, an illustrator, a mentor. And all of these things aren't what make me special. Those aren't the things that make Corey Corey. What makes me me is the things that I bring to my interactions, the things that I bring to my projects. And that's the secret sauce. People ask me all the time, what's your process? What's your secret? How do you approach your work? And honestly, it's simple. And I encourage everybody to find your formula. For me, what I've noticed, my formula, and your brand is really what people think of you. It's not what you think of yourself. It's what people have told you, what people have said about you. And that's where this formula comes in to play. The passion, purpose, and curiosity. These are the things that I bring to every project that allows me to be successful, that allows me to do my best work. And so today, I want to tell you a little bit of a story about passion, purpose, and curiosity through the lens of my work with the African American Museum, or NAMAC. But some definitions here. When I say passion, I think about passion as what you bring to your work, your unique energy. Every project requires you to really be invested, and I truly believe that you need to really bring a certain level of enthusiasm and energy to a project, because every project is an opportunity for you to make an impression, for you to strengthen your personal brand. And purpose. How do you bring purpose to your work? And when we think about purpose and we think about the role of designing for impact, purpose is it's connected innately. But what do you bring of yourself? How do you bring yourself to the projects? Can you bring a little bit of something that gives the project an edge that is personal to you? I always try to do that. And one other thing that people laugh when I say this is you need to approach the work with childlike curiosity. When I think of children, they're not jaded by the world. They approach everything with questions, and they really have a lot of fun in their process. And so I try to do the same thing on my projects. And when I work with others, I try to bring a certain level of curiosity and energy. And so that's what makes me me. And so let's talk about how that manifests in the work. But first, I want to say that the work I've gotten to do with Namak over the years has been it's been the pinnacle of my career. This was sort of my first big project here at Forum One. So it's been a long time now. Thanks for reminding me. 8 years, Tina. And I realized that when I look back, the one thing that is the constant, the thing that really stands out, is the impact I was able to make with this client, this museum, this institution. Why? Because it means so much to me personally. I felt a personal connection, a personal responsibility to this project for it to be well. But that story begins around 2015, 2016. Now, the interesting thing about that version of the web experiences, which was the first task we had at Forum One, is to design a new experience for a museum that was just being built. The doors weren't even open. We were actually designing a website for something that wasn't ready for the public quite yet. And there's a number of challenges within that. You imagine the exhibitions, what those might look like. But we did have a solid foundation in the branding work that the museum team had already brought to the table. So we had a really strong foundation. And so designing for a museum that many people might not be able to make it to. So the website needed to be a destination. It needed to be an experience. So we worked really hard to focus on telling unique stories, using the website as a visual experience to tell stories. And I love this slide because the people don't know much about like my process and how I approach the work and how I became this person that is so driven, so passionate. And it really kind of starts, when I thought back, it kind of started with this project. So when I was working on this project, and I felt a deep sense of purpose, I felt a deep sense of pride, and I felt personally connected to the work. This represents my culture, Black culture, and many of these things that I was learning and seeing for the first time are things that I didn't learn about in the history books. I didn't see many of the stories told through the museum's lens in my history books. I felt like I was missing out on an education about my own people, my own culture that that really that realization really drew me even closer to this bond that I was able to develop with this museum and the people there and the work. And so this slide is sort of a look behind the scenes of how I really work. I sketch a lot. I tend to live in my imagination, and this is a perfect example of where imagination meets reality. As the things I was thinking about started to happen, started to take shape in the physical designs. And a big part of this, the initial web experience, was to create an experience that is driven by narrative, driven by storytelling. And this is, you're seeing a glimpse of the collection slider. And typically with collection sliders, you show the objects, right? For those who are on the call or in the museum space, you understand that you show the objects. But what I wanted to do differently with this one is I wanted to connect the objects with a moment in time. And this is just like a random act of curiosity. Wouldn't it be cool if we can connect these objects, these powerful objects, with a moment in time? And in this case, you're seeing Muhammad Ali. I lean toward this one because I grew up watching boxing with my dad, boxing Mike Tyson fights on pay-per-view, and Muhammad Ali is one of his favorite boxers. And so I found myself using this as sort of the springboard for the entire design system. And everything flowed. I was designing, I was even writing copy pre-chat GPT and AI. I was in there writing copy and really thinking about, what it means to tell the story of Muhammad Ali. But that moment, and that one design inspired an entire design system that has been getting better and better. And so you're seeing a little bit here, a bit of the fuller web design system for the African American Museum website. And this is really important because you have to make sure that everything from a branding standpoint connects, but make sure that you have great looking typography and design. But that all stemmed from a strong conceptual connection with the product and with the work. So even these structural design things can be beautiful. And so you're seeing a little bit of the collection search. You're seeing some featured sliders. You're also seeing the Freedmen's Bureau, which we'll talk a little bit about later. All of these things were the things that landed us award-winning website. And when I say what landed us the award-winning website, I'm talking about when you truly develop a connection with the client, when you develop that trust, when you develop that deep sense of purpose, it can pay off. And awards aren't everything, but it's also nice to get them as a validation. Many creatives, many designers, and this may be true for some of you on the call, is we become insecure about some of our work. Sometimes we ask ourselves, there's a voice in the back of your head, and it's in your subconscious, and it says, you're not good enough. It says that, oh, that's not as good as it can be. It could be better. And these are really just the manifestation of your insecurities about yourself. And so when you do win an award, it's that validation. I try to ignore that voice as much as possible. We all have it. We all have imposter syndrome. And really the big point is there's stories you're telling yourself. And so many people haven't seen these photos from the Webby Awards. To win a Webby Award is kind of like, it felt like the Oscars for web design, and being there in the moment, surrounded by so many creative people, getting the opportunity to hang out with the key team on the project, get a little fancy. I got to meet Van Jones up close, Questlove from a distance, met some amazing people at some of the happy hours, got to spend a lot of time in New York. Got to deliver a 5-word Webby speech, which mine was Black history is America's history. And so this really was a really amazing moment of validation for my career. But what's next? So when you win an award for a website, you wonder to yourself, what is there more you can do? What can you do next to really make an impact? And how can you continue to grow the brand? I show this slide, but many people have never seen any of this. And you may see it in the future, you may not. But this story is a perfect example of developing a deep sense of curiosity and caring deeply about the client, the work you're doing. So I had learned in a news article that the NAMOC had acquired the Jet and Ebony magazine archives. And For those of you who are not familiar with Jet and Ebony, it's an iconic Black magazine publication. And particularly, Jet was one of those magazines that I grew up seeing going to the barbershop. I seen them on the table. But that was a source of information, a source of news for the Black culture. It had everything in it. And I started thinking to myself, wow, this amazing collection, what could we do with it? And I started to visualize some of these things. I started to think about, wouldn't it be great to tell these stories for the younger generation who may not have even ever heard of Jet and Ebony? Is there a way we can bring it online and make it interactive? And so this is one moment of like how I bring curiosity to my process. I'm always thinking about the clients. I'm always thinking about the projects I work on. And I work really hard to develop that deep sense of connection. So that way these things feel fun and they feel effortless. And they did. And I'm really proud of this work, even though we may not ever see it, or maybe we will. Another story is I understand that the museum is ever evolving. Their collection is in the process of being digitized. Many of the collection items are becoming digitized in 3D. And I thought, wow, this is really amazing that, what if we could bring some of those things online and make them interactive again, just following my curiosity, really looking for opportunities to expand the brand. We've worked with a number of partners over the years in thinking about future ideas such as conversational AI. And this is pre-AI boom. We were already thinking about like, wow, how can we leverage the power of technology to close that gap between the past and present and bring conversations to the table that are brand new and exciting. So this is another moment of curiosity. So now I want to take a step back. So you remember this slide? I showed you the design system for the main website. A big part of the more recent iterations of the site was the development of the Freedmen's Bureau search portal. Now, for many of you who don't know what the Freedmen's Bureau is, essentially it's a collection of documents and older documents that really captured the accounts of the lives of slaves as they entered into society. There's house records and marriage documents. There's so many documents that are in the archives that were almost buried. So the museum and with our partnership, we worked really hard to develop a collection search that took the transcribed data and allowed us to view it online and allow you to search these records. I did a quick search for Jones. Unfortunately, I didn't find any of my family, but I was able to find a lot of documents that highlighted the name Jones in this view. And this is such a powerful and the first of its kind on the museum site. And I couldn't be more proud to say that I made an impact in designing this experience. But that led us to like, well, how can we get volunteers? How can we promote the actual Freedmen's Bureau? And how can we promote this tool? How can we get people to volunteer to transcribe the data? Because really, this process of transcribing the data really relies on individuals and those volunteers to really get those documents transcribed and input into the system. So we worked really closely with the branding team at NAMOC, who is amazing. The branding team over there is doing some really great work. We worked really hard with them to develop systems around their brand on getting the most out of the brand. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Freedmen's Bureau, how do you brand something that is really just a structural tool? And so we needed to put a look to it. And a lot of the look and feel for this promotional video came from us taking a look at the historical documents themselves. The edge, some of these documents are worn and torn, and we let that drive the system. But not only that, we wanted to create some personality and really use that color palette because the NAMOC has a really beautiful color palette. We just wanted to find new and interesting ways to leverage it. And one fun little detail about this is sometimes you can make an impact just by thinking about the details. So this typeface at the bottom where it says Freedman School is a recreation of Frederick Douglass's handwriting. Nobody knows that, and maybe nobody will ever draw that connection, but it's the details that matter. And I take a lot of pride in thinking about those details in every design that I create. So the Freedmen's Bureau was an amazing project, but it doesn't stop there. we were able to do so many great things, work with so many of the different groups within the museum, and that wouldn't be possible without developing that trust. So you're seeing here on the screen, this is an event series called A Seat at the Table. And A Seat at the Table is really, it's a participatory event where it was historically done in person, where the the museum had brought people together for conversations and dialogue around social justice and a number of other issues. But why the table? Why the name A Seat at the Table? So the name A Seat at the Table really comes from the understanding of the cultural significance of the dinner table. As we think about Black culture, African American history, the table represented a place where you brought people together. You created a connection at the table. Business was done at the table, and a lot of things were organized at the table. So we think about that Sunday dinner, and we think about all these moments of the table. And so the idea was to bring these diverse voices together over dinner, break bread, have a conversation, and talk about change. And so this historically was done in person with food. How do you bring it online? And that was the challenge. So we worked really hard with the team to develop a online we picked out an online platform that allowed us to bring everybody into a virtual room, similar as Zoom, but it allowed everybody to have a place in the Zoom, almost as if they were at a table. So we had that going for us, and then to take it a step further, the museum team worked with some of their culinary experts and thought that it would be amazing to send customized dinner kits to everybody. And I'm a big food person. My brother's a chef, and I grew up cooking and grew up in a very food centric family. So this was right up my alley. I was super excited to participate, just to be a participant. It's always nice that when you feel like the thing that you're working on is the thing that you would join and enjoy yourself. And this was an amazing opportunity. So we got the brand experience. As you can see, this idea of the circular patterns was really just this idea of bringing everybody together around a table. And so you're seeing a little bit of that. Part of the other inspiration behind this is the famous quote from Langston Hughes, I too, where Langston accounts that he deserves a right to be at the table. Next time you'll see how special I am. I encourage you all to look up the I too quote, but he's really talking about the table as a sort of this iconic representation of that's where things happen, that he deserves the right, he's special. And I love that little story about this project. And so A Seat at the Table was an amazing opportunity. And I know you're going to hear me say that a lot, amazing opportunity, because I truly feel like every single project I get to work on is better than the last. And it's just like, wow, I'm really proud that I get to work with this client and do this work. Because again, in some way, you're playing a role in preserving that history. And this is very true for this project here. So the museum had in the Smithsonian really wanted to, come up with their first Smithsonian African American Film Festival. And so we got to do a lot of work around branding this event and really thinking about how to really highlight Black cinema in a very big way, and give the website, using the website to give people a place to not only buy tickets, but to get to know some of the iconic people of history in cinema and film. And I'm a big film person. I really love, cinematography. As you all know, I'm animation background. And so I've always loved that idea of film and cinema. But what an amazing feeling to kind of see the thing that you worked on as a backdrop to all these amazing, actors and producers and creatives and cinephiles. So this was an amazing opportunity. And you see this expressive color palette. You see a lot of these really vibrant things happening. Again, that's like really following your curiosity and looking for opportunities within the brand to extend the brand. And I couldn't do any of this if it wasn't without that trust of working with the museum teams and developing relationships with them over the years to really gain that trust. So I really thank them for allowing me to bring my best to this work. So you saw a lot, but there's even more. So we worked really hard over the past couple years with the programs team And for me, this is a really big moment because the museum trusted us enough to say, hey, we could use your help on so many other programs and events. They saw the work that we were doing, the impact that it was making, and working very closely with their branding team, we developed sort of these frameworks that allowed us to explore the different programs, because every program that the museum puts on has its own look and feel. Everything ties back to education, the celebrating our history, but each one has its own audience. Each one has its own sort of unique identity. And so how do we develop a system that allows us to be flexible enough to express ourselves across these different programs? And you're seeing a few different programs. If you haven't attended one of the mock programs, I highly recommend them. They're amazing. And so I'll pause a little bit here and talk about developing trust and developing a system. So many of you are very intimately familiar with the museum, and you understand that the purple is the core color of their brand. But when we were introduced with the programs teams, the education team, we wanted to look at the brand as an opportunity to push it further, an opportunity to extend the brand. So when we had looked at the full color palette, we thought, wow, these are some amazing colors in here. You have some amazing brand colors, that there's a lot that you can do with these if you just understand color theory, you understand how to express those colors. And so we developed a framework that allowed us to either lean closer to the purple, which is, I would say, is more core general branded, all the way to the other side of the spectrum, which is expressive, where we pull out the reds, the yellow, and some of the greens, and some of the more vibrant colors. And so the next project I'm going to show you is really for me, another one of those career defining projects. And this is the color palette that is expressed through this project. And so that project is Simmons Talk. So Simmons Talk is backed by Ruth Simmons. Ruth Simmons, if you're not familiar, Ruth Simmons was the first African American woman to head an Ivy League school in Brown University, former president of Prairie View A&M. And this project is really about bringing people together, bringing artists together, having conversations. And this was all done in a virtual setting, but we needed to come up with a brand for it. But what makes this project so impactful to me personally was the fact that I'm designing something for two people in particular that I have always admired: Amy Sherald and Bisa Butler. So Bisa Butler is a brilliant textile portraiture artist. And Amy Sherald is a traditional painter, portraiture artist. Many who know me know that I'm actually an artist myself, and I do some painting, a lot of pencil artwork, drawing work. And so that's personal for me. Art is personal, and to do something like this and work on a brand that represented people you really admire, that comes with a lot of pressure. And so I'm visualizing these iconic people who I've always looked up to as like, wow, how can I really bring them to life? How can I really celebrate them? But how can I bring something personal? How can I bring my personal passion to this project, knowing that I'm designing something for these artists who may see it, who I really admire? And I want to tell a quick little story about what actually drove this entire look and feel of this design system, because this almost didn't happen. This almost didn't happen because of my own insecurities. And it would have been a really, it would have been a really bad thing, but also I don't think it would have been quite of what it should have been had I not allowed my personal energy to kind of come through. So the story behind this design system, and many don't know this, you're probably hearing this for the first time. I don't even know if the project team even knows it, but I'm going to share it today. So I was looking at these photos of Ruth Simmons, and when you hear Ruth talk and you see her, she commands this presence, and she means business, but she's approachable. She's got an energy to her, and I was really inspired by these photos, and I found myself sketching Ruth, painting Ruth in Procreate. I'm in there drawing and painting, and so I came up with this painting of Ruth that was really just it was just me. It was just me doing what I always do with no intentions of ever sharing it with anybody, let alone the project team. But somehow I came over that insecurity and I did eventually share it. And the story within this bigger story is, like I said earlier, sometimes our insecurities and the voice in our head can discourage us from our true potential. And, you hear things like, oh, this is not a great painting. It's not good enough. Nobody's going to like this. And those things went through my mind. And it's really unfortunate if that is happening to you and you listen. So I don't listen. And so I didn't listen to that voice. And this ended up being, I shared it with the client. They loved it. And it ended up driving the entire system. So I painted Ruth, and then I started painting other elements, aspects of the building. I came up with a sort of animated design system that allowed me to express that idea of the painting. And this is a true story of purpose meeting passion. When you work on these projects, you feel that when you develop that connection, you feel a deep sense of purpose. But when you bring your personal passion to the process, that purpose and passion are really where the magic happens. So I'm going to show you what this looks like in motion. So as I mentioned, this was a live event. A lot of the deliverables we were making were going to be on screen in a live setting. And so this is one intro that we did for the segment with Ruth. And that system needed to work in posters around the museum that promoted the event. So we have some static, but you can see there's an energy to it. And that personality, that smile of Ruth really comes through in every aspect, animated or print. So the full design system, as you see it all together, there's an energy to it. There's a sense of excitement. And I want to show you a clip. And this is the final case study I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to open it up for any kind of questions you all might have for me. But I want to show you what it felt like to see the work live and in person, because none of these videos, none of these animated screens had sound, because we knew that the museum wanted to have live music. So we thought about a strategy where we could have somebody singing live in person. And these are all just random curiosities, random ideas. Like, could we do that? The museum has tons of relationship with a number of different artists and musicians. So that possibility was very easy. And so I'm going to play this clip and show you what these screens look like animated on the Oprah Theater, which is amazing. So I'll share that with you now.
Boys and girls who are young, gifted, and black. Oh, and that's a fact.
I'm an American painter painting Americans. They're everyday people doing everyday things. I oftentimes say that the paintings are a resting place for people to see a reflection of themselves that is not in resistance or contention. It's just a Black person just being a person.
So what an amazing feeling to see your work on such a large screen, and almost be in close relationship to some of your heroes. And that's the feeling. I forgot her name. I should look up her name, but what a powerful voice. So that was amazing. So to see the live, I didn't get the chance to attend in person. I had just moved to New York City area from DC. And so I wasn't able to go in person, but I was able to kind of watch the full live recording. And Tina can share a lot of these. They're still live on YouTube. But wow, such an amazing experience to kind of see your work on a big screen, celebrating people you really admire. And, this is the last case study, but I want to say that, like, you have to find what makes you unique. Think about your personal brand. Think about what it is that makes your project special. Why do people come back to you time and time? And really, for me, it's that purpose, passion, and curiosity. And I want to end with some really, really powerful quotes that I really enjoy that really kind of sum up a lot of what guides me as a creative, what guides me as an individual.
What I believe is, like, don't listen to anyone. Everybody's scared. Everyone tells you how things worked out, but it worked out for you that way. And then a lot of people will try to put their fears on you. You can't do that. No, you can't do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they just projecting. They're putting things that they don't believe that they can do on you. And you may possibly can do it. My uncle said I never sell 1 million records. Mm-hmm. I sold 1 million records like 1 million times. So he was, I'm sure I'm his nephew. I know I don't think he meant any malice.
He wanted the best for you, but
he just was projecting his fears
right.
and things that, are you crazy? How are you going to do that? How? I'm sure there's things that I do now that he can't believe that I was able to accomplish. But he couldn't even see it at the time. So he was just projecting, putting his fears on me. So the whole thing is just, and always believe you're great, even before anybody else believes it.
I'll sum that up with, like, believe that you're great. What he said at the end, believe that you're great, even if nobody else does. And what Jay-Z is really saying in here is a lot of what Dr. Mae Jemison, the first African-American astronaut, if you're not familiar, is never be limited by other people's limited imagination. Think about that for a moment. Another amazing quote that I like is from Rick Rubin, a producer. It says, look for what you notice, but nobody else sees. That's curiosity, seeing the world through a different lens, seeing something different, looking for that difference and celebrating it. And finally, one of my all-time favorite quotes is this one from Maya Angelou is, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And when I think about my career and all the interactions, all the projects and the people I've encountered, that's pretty true. And, people remember working with me as a good experience. And that's me, that's my brand. And that is why I wanted to celebrate the work with the museum, is because I wasn't able to do those things without those clients, those partners trusting me to do that, trusting me to bring myself. And they made me feel good just as much as I may have made them feel good. And so thank you all for joining the webinar. And I think, Tina, we can open up for questions. I'm happy to dive into deep. We can look at stuff, but curious if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, if you have questions that all the folks that are online, feel free to drop it in the chat. That's probably the most central place. You can put in the Q&A too, but the chat's an easy one for us all to see. Corey, thank you so much. As I mentioned in the chat earlier, I've gotten to work and know Corey for the last 8 years here at Forum One, and he's both an amazing colleague and a wonderful friend who has painted and drawn for my own children and inspires them, so they will never forget how he made them feel too. So just incredible. I have a few questions based on the talk itself, and even just my first feedback of, the painting that you painted of Ruth Simmons is just, it's such you turned her into a glowing star, which she is already, and it is the feature image on the NMAC website talking about the Simmons talk, and that was something you did beyond what was under any requirement, and it became so central because you brought your passion, your purpose, and your curiosity to it.
Yeah.
So it's incredible. Well, so speaking of that, Richard has a question. How did you discover your passion? Let's start with that.
That's a long story. So Richard, yeah, to discover your passion, you really have to know, you really have to understand yourself. And what are the things that, ask yourself questions like, what are the things that keeps you, can't speak now. What are the things that excite you? What are the things that you get out of bed and give you a sense of like excitement, drive? I tend to like look at those things. Like I find myself getting a lot of joy when I draw and paint. So that's part of something that I can say that's my unique imprint that could lead into your passion. I think the other thing about discovering your passion is you have to be willing to explore and try new things. If you look back on my career, I started college, like going to school for the longer story is I was going to be a chef. I have a twin brother who is a chef. So I like to cook. I grew up with cooking. I was like, I'm going to be a chef. It's like, nah, I don't really want to cook for a living. I don't want to work in a hot kitchen. But I can draw. So I went to school for animation, but I was like, I don't know if I want to make cartoons, but I love to watch cartoons. And so I developed this curiosity and a learner's mindset where anything new, I just tried. I tried a lot of different things. I experienced a lot of different things. And when I was able to afford traveling, because I didn't grow up traveling the country and the world, I learned that like those moments that open your mind and you expose yourself to new experiences and explore a lot of different things, you'll start to develop your purpose. But I think your purpose finds you. You don't find your purpose. I think you'll know it. And I hate to say this, you'll know it when it finds you, you'll know it. But a lot of it is just is really thinking about how the things that you're working on, the things that you're doing make you feel, and then leaning into it. Sorry, it was a long answer, but like that'd be my answer to that.
Awesome. And a great question that's come in from Brian. You talked about, facing your own anxieties and the idea of imposter syndrome. So, first of all, Brian's congratulating you on all your success, and so great to hear about your journey. And wondering if you could speak more about the imposter syndrome and that self-doubt portion of your process, and how do you overcome that when you face it? You were a Webby Award winning designer years ago, and you went through this imposter syndrome last year with this painting. So how do you work through that?
Yeah, the funny thing about imposter syndrome is it never goes away. No matter how big you get, no matter how many awards or how many times somebody says you're amazing, you still don't believe them. And so I don't think you ever really get over it. I think it's just something you have to manage and you have to deal with. But the other side of that is you got to remember that is your internal voice telling you these things. It's not anything real. And so to overcome it is just to figure out how to live with it and manage it and ignore it. And so that's kind of what I do is like anytime I start to feel that feeling like, oh, I'm not sure and I'm getting uncomfortable, I lean into the uncomfort. So that's really my mechanism is like if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I lean into the things that make me uncomfortable because I've learned that the biggest learning moments have came from the times where I was most uncomfortable. And so yeah, that voice in the back of my head it's been silenced over and over every project. But yeah, there's no real easy answer to it other than to just follow the things that excite you the most. And when you hear that voice saying you're not good enough, don't listen.
Awesome. And I put it in the chat for everybody, and people even wondering when's the next workshop going to be. So we're going to have to think about future talks, Corey, for us to do around this subject. But
Yeah.
if you do want to hear Corey speak again, he's speaking tonight with Georgetown University. He's going to be talking about responsible AI and the creative process around that. So if it's a Google Doc form that you can sign up, and it's a virtual event if you have the capacity to join tonight. I think I'll throw in another question. We talk about this a lot, and you talked about it during your presentation as well, around building trust. So when I think about the story of Namak and Form One, and we were brought on to build this website, although it had a lot of technical components to it, but from that, you were able to gain trust to do things that maybe they didn't necessarily know us for or hire us for. How did you build that trust? How does that process work for you?
Yeah, well, I think I mean it starts with like when you work on a project and you bring a lot of positivity and energy. I don't like negative energy. I like positive vibes and good vibes, as you see back here. So I bring a lot of like enthusiasm and energy to the project, and I try to really work. I work really hard to make sure I understand the content, I understand the goal, and I just approach the work with a lot of curiosity, and I show a lot. I was like, hey, we should try this. We could try this. And then I talk, not only that, you have to be able to sell these ideas and really focus your work around a goal. So a lot of that was just showing them what we can do and then telling them why and how it can make an impact. And slowly, like, they allow you into more and more. And it was just the case with this. The other side it is developing connections with other people at the museum, other people, in the different areas. The programs teams, they've been doing some amazing things, but we had conversations with them. We learned that they're really busy and they really needed support. And so it came through the lens of like, we could use some additional help. But once you get that opportunity, you got to know who else needs to be in the room. And so I'm always very aware of who needs to be at the table, who needs to be a part of the project. So like if you have a branding team, you're meeting with the program teams and there's a branding team, you should probably encourage the branding team to be a part of this discussion also. And so I do that. Who needs to be in the room to talk about this one thing? And so I don't know, it just kind of became a thing where they kept coming to us for more and more, and we'd love to work with Corey on this and that, and so it just kind of just happened a little bit.
Awesome, but that's very deliberate. That's not just, it doesn't just happen.
Well, yeah,
Those
it's
are
always
some great points and great things to be thinking along the
yeah.
way. So great, thanks. We have a great question from Audrey. It's about protecting your passion potentially, and what's involved in your work, and you have safeguards. So basically, in the situations that you found yourself in as well, where you're doing something that was for you, and are there some things that you keep for you, and are there some things that you share as part of something? And how do you push yourself to share? And what might you not share?
Well, first off, hi Audrey. Audrey's amazing. I know Audrey for many many years, and yeah, that's a great question because there is a sense of like, I don't know, like giving too much. Are you giving too much of your person? I look at it like as if I have something to bring that will add value to the thing that I'm working on, I will bring that to the project. And in terms of like, safeguards, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of just like an open book when it comes to like, sharing more of myself to a project. But if you believe in it and you believe that what you have to offer and bring is going to add value, that's really what drives me the most. So in that case, I kind of just like, I just bring it all. I bring it all to every project. But the other side of it is I try not to get too attached to the concept. And I think this is a big mistake that a lot of people bring, and this is not a message that I want to say, is that you should care so much that you can't see anything different, you can't see change. And I think a lot of designers who share their concepts, they become so attached with the concept, the idea, the thing that they brought to it, that they almost can't see when a client gives feedback that challenges it. And that's a flaw, because I think you need to really keep an open mind and listen intently to what they're saying. Look past any sort of initial negative reactions you might have to feedback, because always through that feedback there's some positive, there's some opportunity. And actually, it's funny because all of my work has gotten better through feedback, because the next time around you're thinking more like, okay, well, how can I sell this idea? Maybe I didn't communicate it well enough. And so so then you become a better salesperson, you strengthen your ideas more. And so yeah, so that is a longer way of answering that question, but I hope that answered your question, Audrey.
That's great. And that's great. And I'm not a designer myself, but we all come up with, whether we're technical developers or marketers or whomever, you when you do create something, you do feel a sense of kind of ownership and pride. And how do you, take criticism constructively? How do you
Yeah.
turn things, keep things moving ahead? And it's a constant thing for everyone to work with. So yeah, super relevant. Thank you for asking that question, Audrey.
Yeah.
We've got one from Karen. How do you generate passion and curiosity on projects that don't 100% align with your personal interests at the time? Great question. And in short, how do you get excited about a project that doesn't naturally get you excited?
Wow, that's an amazing question, Karen. It's you become a great actor. No, I'm kidding. So when I get a project, and every project's different. They're not all gonna, naturally flow into your personal passions, but every client's problem is important. They're trying to solve something big. And so it's not easy, but what I try to do is I try to like really do some deep research. I truly really try to understand the content that I'm designing for. But more importantly, I don't care so much about what the stakeholder wants. I care about what the user wants the most. And I really let that drive me, because who are we designing this for? Who are we building this for? And I let that drive me. And so it's really approaching the work with a level of empathy where you're able to kind of see the goal, understand the goal, and then it's just bringing like a positive spirit to the work. Even even a project can get negative. Things can be negative, but you have to try to find a way to look through those breakthrough moments, look through that frustration you might have at any given moment, and yeah, so you become really passionate about it by learning more about the thing and whatever the subject is. And so I spend a lot of time really understanding the client, getting to understand the client, doing discovery workshops, really understanding them as individuals, but also understanding the goal that they're trying to achieve. And I find that tends to not only make you a better designer in the long run, because more, the more information the better you are, but the clients can feel that energy. They can feel that curiosity. If you're genuine in your request for more information, if you're asking them with true curiosity, like, I want to understand this better so I can do an amazing job, then I find that always gets me excited, because I'm learning something new. I call myself a serial learner. So I'm always learning something new. I'm always trying to do something different. And so I love those moments where I get to learn something new that is so not me. So
Excellent. I'm happy to wrap up a couple minutes earlier to give folks some time, but Corey, if you have some final thoughts, this could be a final opportunity for folks to ask some questions, and then we will share the recording with everyone in the next couple of days.
yeah, I mean, I'm just really thankful that you were all able to join, and those who may watch the recording. I hope I was able to leave you with some inspiring words. Thank you to all the people on the call who I know. Audrey, I see Brian Tolbert, who is also an amazing artist. We went to school together. Ryan Tolbert is an amazing artist. You got to share some of your stuff with the group, Brian. But yeah, so like, keep keep that voice quiet in the back of your mind. Just remember that if I can leave you one thing, just remember that voice that tells you you're not good enough is just a voice. It's really just your subconscious, and nobody's saying that about you. Nobody believes that about you. And yeah, so I really appreciate everybody joining today, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to have more conversations about my process. Happy to do that. And I'm looking forward to future events with Tina. And so we'll keep you posted on all that. Got to sign up for our mailing list.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much, Corey.
Thanks a
And
lot.
thank you all for coming. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.